Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. Good morning. It's Saturday, February the 15th. My gosh, I cannot, y'all. We are 45 days into the new year. I feel like I'm every day trying to keep up with it all. But good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy. Let me see where my trusty co host is this morning. Let's see. Let's see where David is. Hey there, good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning, Tamara.
How are you?
Oh, hanging in. Um, I feel like we are subjected to a fire hose of craziness that's really just um, rocking us around um, between the impeachment and Trump's, revenge, uh, you know, actions and everything else that's going on. It's just, um,
We're
and
just in a bad place, David. We're in a bad place politically. I just
yeah,
think that what he has done to this country, where we are, we're so divided, and money right now is the culprit. Like money is being tossed around like air. Like here's money. Bloomberg is buying up every damn thing and every damn body.
well, I think also that what astonishes me is that for Trump, it seems to me that if he loses this election, he's going to have to flee to Brazil or someplace that there isn't any extradition, because really, I mean, there are 14 different investigations, and I just don't understand how he's been able to hold all of them off. There were three different investigations in New York State. Every one of his cabinet members is corrupt, and um, and it seems like there's two layers of corruption. There's the one that's directly related to what he's doing, including, from what I understand, sending big campaign donations uh, to the Republican senators that were the most wobbly, um, and any number of other things that are going on, um, between his bank, his bank loans, the tax evasion in New York State, not to mention his taxes overall. I mean, there are so many things going on, and then the attorney for Stormy Daniels just got convicted of extortion. May go to prison for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. Who knows what's going on with that? Then there's the level that everybody has been covering up for decades, decades. I mean, this goes back to Iran Contra and what happened under Reagan, and Bill Barr, the Attorney General, who, by the way, is worth about $40 million now. After he went into private practice, after being the Attorney General for George H.W. Pappy Bush, he covered up Bush's involvement in the Iran Contra. So this guy is, I mean, he is the go-to man for CYA, of presidents, and I think that the some of what's going on seems to me that there's the personal corruption of Trump and people in his cabinet, like Wilbur Ross, who's worth 300 400 million dollars and is on the board of directors of this bank in the Bank of Cyprus that has been laundering money for Russian billionaires and oligarchs for decades now. He's on the board of directors of that bank. Steve Mnuchin, who foreclosed on 80 or 90,000 people in California during the financial crisis. I mean, these people are. Then there's the underlying that seems to me to be this deeper level of corruption, And when you hear the Democrats talk about rule of law, rule of law, rule of law, it's just the biggest horse puckies, that it's such that there is I don't know how to say it, it's
Just say it, David. It's bullshit,
well,
all of it.
yeah,
I'll say
yeah,
it.
call it BS, I mean, as the kids say, call it out. Um, there's nobody who's really talking about that level of corruption. Which is deep, which is underlying, which in which the whole idea of equal justice before the law. I mean, we have to merge. We have to not merge. Not erase the difference. But there are two things that are going on. One of which is the white supremacy. The underlying deep white supremacy, and the other part of it is that so that's in the criminal justice system. But if you connect the criminal justice system with the civil justice system, in which people get evicted from their homes, in which all contracts are working in favor of the rich, in which all of that stuff. If white working people understood how much the system is rigged, how much the juridico legal civil system is rigged against them, and they do know that. They do know it. Everybody is aware of it, that the system runs by the golden rule.
David, the problem is they can't get beyond that white blind spot, is what you called it.
I know, yeah, and that's that's the place where I think the folks who are organizing for the white progressives, who are organizing for Sanders, organizing even for Warren, really have to get their story right. They have to start listening and picking up and spreading these stories so that people know that they are the white people, people who think and act white think they're alone. They don't know, they don't realize that they are part of a system. They just think, well, I didn't make it, I'm white, and it must be my fault. If
Let's
I'm
read
white.
this comment. Let's read this comment. Trump got 58% of the white vote in 2016.
Yeah.
Despite all of his law violations and absence of morals, he has the great majority of whites convinced that he is the right one. They don't care about anything of the criticisms of Trump. He is also picking up a little more black support. The weak Democratic field is not going to defeat him.
Well, I beg to differ. Yeah, I beg to differ about a weak Democratic field.
Well, you know why I think he says it's weak. When you look at, we have all white candidates now. Yang was the last brown person, the black person of color to be in this candidacy. He's gone. So now we have this white, electorate that we're, these presidential candidates. I don't know. If Bernie or Warren, if either of them are going to come out on the front end of this, they're going to have a black agenda. They're going to have to talk about closing the racial wealth gap. They're going to have to talk about reparations. They're going to have a solid plan for black people. We've had 401 years of Donald Trump, David. Black people are not running to the polls to vote for any of them if they don't have anything for them. We're not.
Well, that's the question. I mean, I'm a news junkie and I listen to all of the news, and it's on MSNBC and those kind of those shows, and there are people who are Michael Moore and Nina Turner, who are, spokespeople for Sanders, who say, look at staff, look at the staffing of these campaigns. That's the critical, factor. If you've got staff that have something to say, and I think that Sanders and Warren do have something to say to the quote unquote black community, because every time people say black community, they're stereotyping. Every time that people say whites, they're stereotyping. We really have to break this down, both racially and in terms of economics. The class struggle goes on whether working people are fighting, or not, whether they're laying down or they're up in arms. The rich are still, the wealthy class, the owning class is going to keep on exploiting and extorting and pushing, squeezing as much as they possibly can. And if so what's going on? Unions are at their weakest point, the smallest, they're still shrinking, but at the same time, this year has had more strikes than any year in 20 years. So there's clearly the economic quote prosperity, the rise in employment has galvanized a lot of resistance. So there are cross currents that are at work here. Voter suppression is feeds into the structural things like the Electoral College and the gerrymandering that is structural, and voter suppression. Now, I sent out something that's really, really important. The judge in the case that Greg Palast brought for voter suppression in Georgia has ruled in favor. Now that's Stacey Abrams, because Greg Palast is working with the Abrams. What's the name of the group? The Fair Fight. Yeah. So there's gonna be a disclosure of what Kemp did in the election, possibly. Because the judge ruled in favor of opening those records. And we have this situation in Florida. Now, Florida is really, really crucial. Florida's been a 1% state, according to Andrew Gillum, the guy who ran for the black mayor of Tallahassee, who ran for governor. He lost that election by something like 1/4 of a point. And in 2019, in 2020, there's supposed to be, that Florida election, the governor's election, was in 2019. That in 2018, 2/3 of the voters in Florida voted a constitutional amendment to give ex-felons back their right to vote. Mm-hmm. And since that's an amendment to the Constitution of the state of Florida, they have the Republicans in the Florida legislature have been working to block any effort to implement that. They passed laws that said that you have to, in order to get your vote back, you have to make full restitution for your, all court claims and everything else. So there are almost 1.5 million people in Florida that constitutional amendment is supposed to give back their right to vote. 1.5 million people in Florida are denied the right to vote because they have a felony conviction. This isn't just people who went to prison. This is people who cop pleas, right, to keep out of jail, out of prison. Um, and the Republicans have now. I heard somebody on MSNBC, a commentator. She actually I can't remember what group she was from, Pod Save America or something like that. Young African American woman, somebody I'd never seen before. She said that Bloomberg and Steyer ought to take a few tens of millions of dollars and pay off those fees. You know,
Right, now that is how, if he wants to spend his money the right way,
exactly.
that's how he can spend his money, not throw it at politicians.
Yeah, that's the first.
That's a great idea to how he can spend his
That's
money.
the only time I have heard somebody say that. Bloomberg has spent $300 million so far.
Mm-hmm.
If he took $10 million, he could win the state of Florida for the Democrats. They could take it over.
I wonder why he has not, why this has not gotten to him yet. What do you think that is? Why has he not done that?
This is the first.
Now, if you want to help some people of color, go and do that. Now, that is how he needs to spend
this is the first time I have heard anybody put one and one together to make two. You know,
that's a great idea. I love it.
And I wish that it was, because it was just a fleeting thing. Last Friday night, Chris Hayes had this woman on with several other people who are the usual talking heads. But she really, I mean, I just, light bulb went off in my head. I felt like, stupid me, duh, makes perfect sense. That's what should be done. And unless that starts to spread, that little clip, if somebody could find it and send it out, it would go, and make it go viral. I don't know how, how to do that.
So here's his answer. Bloomberg is a closet Republican.
Well, he's not closet.
He's been out for a long time.
I mean, he was a Republican. He's shifted over, but nobody can make that. Nobody can make that that stick, because Bernie is not a Democrat either. So and he's the front runner in the party. No, I mean, it's clear that there are two things that are going on. One is that
let's say good morning to Egberto. We haven't had a national update from Egberto in quite a while. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
We doing great, Egberto.
Hey, Egberto.
You guys are sounding great. I mean, I love that conversation about the with Bloomberg. That's right up my alley. I loved it.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said about paying off those fines and fees, whatever they owe?
Yeah,
that's a great idea, right?
I did, but instead, what he does is he's I said I wrote a little thing this morning, and I said in the past you had in the past you were in the past you were involuntarily bought and sold. In the present, you are voluntarily bought. And I look at all those black mayors around the city, including in the country, including my black mayor, Sylvester Turner, and all these other mayors around, Nutter and all these other guys, putting themselves up for sale for somebody who has nothing. The only reason I heard you just asked, why is Bloomberg in the race? Why isn't he, if he really wanted to do something for people of color? Bloomberg doesn't want to do a damn thing for anybody. Bloomberg wants to be president because the fear is that a progressive becomes president, and the gravy train that all these guys who have made billions on the back of others would stop.
Wow. Say that again, Egberto. That like hit that nail right on the head.
That is what they want. He's not there for anybody else other than the plutocrats. And these plutocrats want to ensure that a progressive doesn't. And it doesn't matter if the plutocrat is a Republican or Democrat. Watch how they change parties ad nauseum. In other words, he was a Republican when he needed to be. He's a Democrat now because he needs to be, because that is where he figured he could actually win to continue the thing. Now, when you have Democrats saying if a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren wins, they'll rather vote for Trump, that tells it all. It's a game.
Damn, Egberto,
It is, it is a game. It is a game.
damn.
So I mean, what we have to do,
Egberto, we're being played.
we are being played by both parties,
Oh,
mostly by
oh.
the Republican Party. But right now, the concerted effort, Bernie Sanders took a commanding lead in the national polls. My national spill here. He took the lead in the national polls right now, 10 points over the person that they thought was their bearer. I want to ask everybody one thing. When has somebody who has lost 2 elections, who has never ever won a primary, could become the person that a party puts all their marbles on? Joe Biden never ever, he ran twice. No, this is third run for presidency. He has never ever won a primary, ever. There are a lot of other Democrats that are also fearless centrists that have won primaries before, but not Biden. Why is it that they were so invested in Biden to win? Remember what he said to the group of plutocrats that he went to a meeting with. Don't worry, if I'm elected, your fortunes are just fine.
Well, Biden also has been the senator from the state of Delaware
Delaware.
for
Yes.
40 years. Delaware is the safe haven, the tax haven for the banks and the credit card companies for decades and decades. That has been the biggest industry, surpassing DuPont. I mean, DuPont was a manufacturer. It's really a sign of how the shift has taken place in the U.S. economy, from
Amazing.
manufacturing, from big industrial concerns to banking. The banks are his friend. They're his protector. They are his, and he protects them. He has put in more legislation, including the opposition to. I mean, Warren has got the goods on him. He protected the banks and the credit card companies from the bankruptcy laws that were introduced in the late 90s, and turned them on their head so that people it was harder for ordinary working people to declare bankruptcy.
And in fact, I'm glad you brought the word up, bankruptcy. Corporations can go bankrupt. All these other entities can go bankrupt. Get a student loan. You cannot go bankrupt. You cannot dissolve your student loan with bankruptcy.
Exactly. It follows you after death. It follows you beyond the grave.
Yes.
And the thing is that it's still the case that what I was looking at some of the figures here. About medical debt accounts for half of the bankruptcies or more.
500,000 a year.
This is after the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
I mean, people are still going bankrupt. $17,000 a year is the average family cost of health insurance.
It is
$17,000 a year.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is, and but the thing about it is a lot of people don't quite know it, David, Tamara. And that is what we have to do. We have to, because they say things like, "Well, are you going to take away insurance from 140 million Americans because they love their insurance?"
Yeah,
they want choices. No, you don't you don't get choices. You get an insurance company, and then they're your master. They tell you what drugs you can buy.
Not only that,
doctor, yeah.
Not only that, but they're masters of the doctors as well.
Yes. Yes.
People want their own doctors, and they don't want their own insurance. They hate their insurance for the most part. Whoops.
But we got it, David. We have to relay. I had a great show where I had some Trumpsters on, and as we spoke these particular issues, you could see them mellowing as the show went on. You could see them because they kept on peppering with the questions, but you could see them mellowing. So I mean, I'm glad that you had the program on this with Mr. Bloomberg today, because I have been doing what has hurt me the most is to see how many Black people jump from Biden to Bloomberg. After they see that Biden is nothing but a sham, they're yet to see that Bloomberg is not a sham. They talk about the black voter being very, what's the word that they like to use? Discerning or pragmatic.
Yeah.
There's nothing pragmatic about picking a Biden, nothing pragmatic about picking a Bloomberg at all. What it is shown that it is one of the communities that get a whole lot of bad information, supported by bad black people who lead their flock afoul. And I can say that. And by the way, I don't care if you said that as well, David. White dude, you're a good white dude. Let me tell you something. All right, bad black people are a danger, or a clear and present danger to Black Americans, starting from the black Congressional Black Caucus all the way down. They are nothing more than slaves, modern day antiseptic slaves.
Preach, Egberto.
Well,
you said it.
Well,
you said it.
When you have a nutter going on TV and singing the praises of Bloomberg, when you see them doing a disservice like that, they're not only disservicing, they're not only being wrong to the black community, they're being, first of all, folks that are listening, I don't believe in race, okay? But we are separated by race in this country. And that therefore we have to be pragmatic on that. So Tamara, with all due respect, I'm sorry, but we have, I think, one of our major problems right now in this leadership scam. It has little to do with white people. It has more to do with black people, and black people screwing over the whole country, just like the white plutocrats screw over the entire country.
Yes, you are. Oh my gosh, you were hitting the nail right on the head. Like today, this is fire, because you're telling the truth. We got to call out our own. You know, I do call out racism, and I do call out racism. And David and I talk very candidly. When black ain't right, I call you out too, and they are not right. And I called out. You know, Stacey Abrams took $5 million. You know, people were coming for me because I said something about the fact that she.
I saw that,
and you know, she took it. And let's call her out too. You know, all these mayors, this is embarrassing, the state and the fate of Black America, and you guys are being bought and sold. And it's embarrassing, and it's horrible that they're doing it. And I'm calling them out. I'm putting them on blast. So thank you, Egberto.
Thank you. Actually, I saw your post on when you mentioned about Stacey Abrams. I really like Stacey Abrams, but I really think that she is that she could get herself corrupted by the money. Look, she's a DNC person. I understand that, but she's doing very, very good work. But sometimes money can corrupt, and I think she's running the risk. I don't think she's there yet, Tamara. In my humble opinion, you're closer to the scene than I am, so you know better than I do. But I am hoping.
Yeah. She's playing with fire, and you know, she's done a lot of good work. And I've given her credit, even though she has not endorsed me. She has endorsed somebody else in my race, and that's fine. But I've given her credit for moving that needle with black people, encouraging people to go to the polls, come out and vote. I've given her credit. I give credit where credit is due. But with this time, she's wrong. She's wrong, and I'm not happy with that.
You cannot get endorsed by DNC. I mean, you're just not going to. You are an insurgent candidate, and that is what we like, the insurgent candidacy of our people, because you're owed to nobody.
I am unbought and unbossed. I actually posted today. I am unbought and unbossed. I will not be silenced. I will not be, you will not buy my voice, and you will not buy my agenda. I am not for sale. It makes my skin crawl. I am not for sale.
I would say that there's a real contrast between what's going on in the Black community, what's going on among European Americans. I think that it's not saying much to say that African Americans are among the most conscious voters in this country. All right. And at the same time, to say that what you were saying, acknowledge what you were saying is both of you, Tamara and Egberto, are saying is true. But compared to the level at which European Americans are thinking about politics, we really have to make a distinction there. that black people are more informed, are more um, uh, uh, con- conversant and actually having conversations about politics and the issues than 90% of whites. And we really need to be aware of how not only how ignorant people, European Americans are, because of the blind spot. They're gullible. On
I,
top of that, they'll believe anything
I
almost.
I love that you said blind spot because I I give and I want to take this make this sound correct because one of the ways that I work with people is first acknowledging that we inside of our brains we all basically function the same, right?
Yeah,
Now white people don't have the stigma of as soon as they walk into a room their pigmentation tells an entire story. They are the majority. So as such, you cannot judge on the same manner as you judge a black person who lives hate, who lives racism, who lives all these things. So it is clear that they are going to have all these notions on their shoulders immediately. A white person does not have to go through with that burden in life. And if it is like who gets exercised more. I mean, if you're
right.
confronted with a whole lot of different bacteria, you have a strong immune system because it has to fight those bacteria. If so we have to fight hate, we have to fight all those things. White persons, they don't have to go through that, so those muscles aren't exercised. So I
Yeah,
don't so because those muscles aren't exercised, I think as a black person it is I have to be empathetic in realizing that had I been in a black system where it was white people who were oppressed, if I really believe in equality, if I really believe in all those things, the reactions would be the same. And that is what gives me in my older years, the patience to work with people.
yeah. Well, I also think that at the same time we can't be permissive,
No, agreed.
um, and that really is where I think uh, our conversations here are really important for uh, bringing to, particularly to progressive whites, what their responsibilities and obligations are,
Yes.
to go out and talk to their families, take their, I mean, the amount of risk that's involved, of getting a hostile reaction, for European Americans talking to their family or their neighbors or their people who they work with, their fellow employees, is so much less than what African Americans and black and brown people are facing. I mean, we have millions of people, and because we don't have Latinx folks on this show that much, except you, of
That's
course.
what I say. I wear a lot of caps: Caribbean,
Yeah.
Latin, black, everything, man.
Yeah. But the thing is that there are millions of people who this country is totally dependent upon for their food supply, right? Agricultural workers who are by the hundreds of thousands, by the millions, in fact, because they do not have the right papers, are subject to a system of terrorism, right? uh, which has been ratcheted up by Trump, because and is used. The illegal immigrant is now the sort of the surrogate for race, right? There is, this is the new what do you call it, way in which white supremacy uses its dog whistles, is to talk about immigrants and the and so all of the people who used to be able to say the N word and used to be able to talk about black folks in the usual white supremacist stereotypes, now are able to use this code language, and a new form of a code language. But the fact is that that it's the same perceived threat. It's the same perceived threat.
Let's give Egberto these last few minutes.
Yeah.
Egberto, just kind of fill us in. I know that you've been watching Bloomberg and
Right.
Sanders and Warren. So where are we politically, Egberto?
Well-
I gotta have, you know what? I need some light because it's been so dark this week politically. Is there any light, Egberto?
I am always hopeful. I am always positive. I am always looking forward. And I think we are the ones who are going to determine what the future is going to be. The idea right now is many people would like us to throw our hands up and say that the thing is baked. Forget about it. Right now, I think the kind of hope that I'm having when I see a Bernie Sanders on top of the polls is that the DNC is doing all that it can to hold progressives back. And the fact that they're fighting so hard and this guy is still getting up to the top. I'm not saying we're going to be winners there, but I'm going to say we're going to be players. I think if we work hard enough, we can be winners. If we can give people more hope, if we can empower people, like with shows that you and David are doing right now on Tamara for Georgia, on the Tamara Shealy show, I think we have to be everywhere to give people that hope and let them know, yes, we can do it. We may fall short, but don't work on falling short. Work on winning. And you know what? You just may win.
Yeah, we can't stop fighting, Egberto. I know we can't. We can't never let them win. I'll tell you, when my little son was probably about 3 years old, he was watching something on television, and he came running in the kitchen and he said to me, "Mom, the bad guy won. Mom, the bad guy never wins." And he was like 3 years old, and I have carried that little moment in time because.
Prison, that your son. That is, I mean, I love that. Yeah, love that.
Mm-hmm. You can find Egberto Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, YouTube, Instagram, Periscope. This man is everywhere. Politics Done Right with EgbertoWillies.com. Follow him, support independent media, because we're all we got. And thank you, Egberto, for all you do.
It's always a pleasure being with both of you. Thank you so kindly for having me.
Thank you, Egberto. Have a good week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Yeah. Well, I just to continue the direction that we've been taking. There's another thing that I think, besides Sanders and Warren and what they're doing and the base that they're building. Certainly, there are now hundreds of thousands of people that are working for on Sanders' campaign, and I want to emphasize that 2/3 of the country is in what now is termed the affordability crisis, and that includes half of European Americans, as well as 3/4 of Black and brown folks, where the costs of home ownership have gone up beyond the wages. The costs of health insurance are through the roof. People who are on Medicare, who are actually on the senior medical program, are spending $5,500 a year, more than $5,000 a year, on out-of-pocket expenses. That's Medicare. Medicaid. People who are on Medicaid have to spend $2,500 a year out-of-pocket expenses. The deductibles that people have gone from $2,000 a year. The average deductibles now are $3,000, up from $2,000. Not to mention what's going on with student loans, which are heavily discriminating against people of color who take out student loans. So we have an affordability crisis, that for the vast majority of people is it means that their actual interests are very much in favor of doing the kinds of programmatic things that are putting that
The wealth gap, that's what you're talking about. The wealth gap is continuing to
well,
expand.
it's more than just a wealth gap. The 1% to the 99%. There's people who are the I keep on saying that 9.9% are doing very well, and the 10%.
Those are the gatekeepers. So when you say that, people have to. Those are the gatekeepers.
Yeah, and they're the gatekeepers for both the Democrats and the Republicans. I think
Yes.
it's two wings of the same bird.
Yes.
And the bird is this corporate, capitalist system, and those folks are the ones who are doing they are profiting from the system. For then there may be a category in the next decile, the next 10%, from 80 to 90%, that are fairly comfortable, but everybody below that, the 80% of us are are really at one level or another are living with a system of precariousness that has never been around before, except in Black and Latinx communities. What's happening?
Now it's trickling. So our problems are now trickling over into the white community. It's happening to white people now.
Yeah,
it's not just happening to Black and brown people. It's happening to white people now.
And I think that one of the things that is happening, one of the things that is generating the support for Trump, is that European Americans do not understand what is happening to them as being part of a system. Right? They think in terms of their individual circumstances, and they are internalizing their failures. Black people and Latinx people understand that they are being subjected to a white supremacist system, and
so white people don't want to recognize that white supremacy now is eating them because it's already ate us.
It has made them vulnerable to the forces that are creating that is to the the system that is really extracting profit from all of us, and there really needs to be
so David, how do you get to these white people? I mean, just to kind of bring it full.
Exactly.
I mean, that's been your struggle for the last. Yeah, that's been your struggle. Like, how do you get white people to understand that now what is happening, what has happened and has continuously happened to Black and brown people, is now happening to you?
Yeah,
they know it. They just don't want to recognize it. The race gets in the way.
Yeah, and the Black Agenda Report, which is now been around for a decade or more, has a radio show. Glenn Ford, the editor of Black Agenda Report, said, "We have to pose the issue to European Americans about that the choice that they face is between holding on to their prerogatives as whites, taking care of their sick mother."
So they got to choose between what's white and what's right.
What's white and what's right and what's
what a choice white people now have to make. White people now, I'm gonna have to hashtag this: white or right. You got to choose.
Yeah.
Hashtag. That's gonna be a new one.
And the problem that we've been facing is that nobody so far has been able to mobilize and organize to present this choice. It's not a question of telling people what to do or not. There's no presentation of the choice. That's the ultimate privilege for whites, is that they have a choice, and the issue for progressive whites is are they going to make the choice? Or
They're
we?
not. I'm telling you, I'm in these progressive spaces, David, where they are like holding on to their whiteness. Oh my God, if you bring up anything that talk about the Black agenda, talk about reparations,
Yeah.
talk about closing the racial wealth gap, David, they come for you in droves. Like they literally like attack me. I'm like, it's no sense in me talking to y'all because y'all don't want to hear the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there again, the fear is that they are going to be drummed out of the white race.
Oh, they're gonna lose. See that? Look, there they are choosing that white over what's right. There
Yeah.
you said
Yeah.
either their whiteness or taking care of their sick mother.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as those folks,
Like a drug. Is whiteness a drug, David?
well, it's
What is it? It's like they're hooked on it. Like I can't
yeah,
let this go.
yeah,
What is
yeah,
that?
yeah. I mean, that's I think the critical element here is to see that as long as the folks who think they are woke, and I don't like that word, but as long as the folks who think that they are on the right side have really not taken that last step, what my mentor Ted Allen used to call the existential leap, from their perceived status as white to their real status, which is as working people, as part of the working class. Then the issue, that's the step that needs to be taken before they can act in solidarity with the rest of us. And as long as they do that, as long as they're afraid to take that step, they can't talk to other whites. They can't challenge other whites, because they're too afraid to lose their status. And their status.
Here he says lose their whiteness is their biggest fear. Loss of privilege. So scary.
Yeah, exactly.
The question is, what will they choose?
Yeah, well, let me just say that for years, I got my PhD, my doctorate, more than 35 years ago, and I was torn by my situation. I did not want to be in the middle class. I wanted to.
Are you a Dr. David Slavin?
Huh? What?
You're a doctor. You're a doctor. You have your doctorate.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
gonna call you Dr. Slavin. Then I've not David. I knew you had.
I've had my doctorate for
Okay, well, Dr. Slavin is how I'm going to start referring to you. So
Yeah,
moving forward. Okay, finish your point. I'm Dr. Slavin.
I published a book. I've published a dozen articles.
Okay,
And,
Dr. Slavin it is moving forward.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Slavin.
Well, the thing is that I was torn between what I was before, which was a working class labor organizer, and what I was doing now. And I've taught for 25 years at the college level, with a PhD, with a book that was published 15 years ago. And what I discovered was that because I didn't get tenure, because everything that I did was too late and too little, that I was part of a mass of college teachers who are working either part-time or temporary full-time, this adjunct out of tenure stream group. And in fact, the working class had come to me. I was an academic proletarian. So, and it took me years to figure that out. That's what was happening to me, and was happening to tens of thousands. That more than half of the academic workforce, the teaching workforce in higher education, does not have permanent jobs.
What? And I was sitting next to a college professor at an event this past week at Emory, sitting next to him, and he started talking about you know, the fact that his salary, and he said it's like $3,200 a course. I kind of looked at him like, huh? So education, you know, there's no value in education. I'm not sure where we're going with this, but let's bring it back to Bloomberg, and let's bring it back to where we are with white privilege and whiteness and rightness.
Yeah, the point that I'm making is that I was in a state of denial, and you know, ain't just a river in Egypt denial. So if it was true of me, you know, I really understand why people, European Americans, have such a hard time breaking out of the privileged status, and seeing behind the veil, seeing that the benefits that they get are ultimately useless to them. They don't bring power to determine your own life. The only thing that does that is power with solidarity. That's the only way that we determine our own lives. And so, if we are going to be able to change our circumstances, it's got to be outside of our status as white. It's got to be coming home to and forming, actually.
That is so scary for white people. That's so scary for white people, Dave, because they don't know who are they if they're not white.
And
if they're not white, who are they? They have no clue.
Yeah, and that's where I don't know how you break the circle, you know, of that. The only thing that I can that I can hit upon is that I mean, I hate to say it, because it's unloading another responsibility on people of color, but you know,
don't give us any more to do, David.
Yeah,
we've been doing enough.
I just
go ahead and say it.
I mean, the more demanding, you know, the more insistent that people of color become to demand equality and equity, the more it opens up space. You know, that's what most of
we got to keep pushing white people to do the right thing.
Yes,
because they're not going to do it on their own, David.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things that's going to happen, and this is what I project as the scenario, is that eventually there's going to come together, or not eventually, but if we can raise enough awareness that there's going to be a critical mass of European Americans who are taking, and this existentially, that word woke so much, it's like it's over and done with, and you're all, you know, you pass through. We're gonna have to be taking existential leaps every day. Every day we're gonna have to be up in the risk level for us, for ourselves, and challenging the European Americans that are around us to stop thinking and acting white. But
we're on the right track, David. Basically, you're saying just we have to keep pushing white America and white people to do the right thing. And you know, I think social media has helped tremendously, because it's a lot of shame in a lot of stuff that's happening. It's shameful to see some of this stuff, and they see themselves where, you know, it was us, you know, black and brown people all over the media. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing, demonizing us, making us look like we're the worst ever. But now social media has been our friend, because now white people get to see what they're doing and how it's affecting the rest of this world. I want to share something. I'm gonna put my screen up. We only have a few minutes left. Let me there's a stage play that here it is. So this week, tomorrow, let me take this banner down. Y'all work with me. I'm still learning how to use this thing. Okay, so tomorrow, Justice on Trial, the movie 2020, will be at the Porter Sanford here in Atlanta. So if you can make it, it is a phenomenal movie. It will be a phenomenal movie. I actually saw the stage play about a month ago. 2 civil rights attorneys sue the United States Justice Department for reparations, y'all. He in this movie, he brings back these time travelers, Medgar Evers, Emmett Till, Harriet Tubman, to tell their stories. And literally the United States government is on trial for reparations. So tomorrow, if you can join us at the Porter Sanford, it is tomorrow at 6 p.m. I'm super excited. It's a red carpet event. Justice on trial. So we are continuing to push the envelope, David. We are continuing to shed light on, why America has to fix this. We're not. I think that Trump was the worst thing that ever happened to us and the best thing at the same time.
Yeah, and your words resonate with me about about the level of panic that these white progressives are feeling about Trump. That Black and brown people have been living under Trump for centuries.
We're not. This is not scary for us, David, at all. And, we can survive. We know how to survive on nothing.
So the question for European Americans is, can they harden themselves to take the risks? Can they tolerate the risks that are going to be involved in this movement that's going on? And primarily, can the white progressive forces get over themselves and find ways to? I mean, right now, find ways to be effective with other European Americans, which is going to require them to go out and take risks. That they have been unable to do up until now, for now, it's really the critical factor right now that I think is standing in the way is that there's a paradigm out there among European Americans that's reinforced, unfortunately, by a lot of African Americans, that these white privileges are benefits. They are not. They are not. And the longer that white European American progressives in that, the less likely it's going to be that they're going to be able to talk to other whites. Their privileges are real. There is a real gap. There's a real distinction, racial divide in the way that the system treats African Americans and European Americans. However, what the European Americans are getting out of that is not benefits. What they are getting is the ability, the only privilege that really is real is the ability to act as deputies to these elites in the oppression of African Americans and Latinos.
And that gives them power. That gives them a sense of security, a sense of control.
It gives them
exactly. It does.
Gives them power over as opposed to power with. Mm-hmm. And the only valuable kind of power to working people is solidarity, is power with. And as long as the white progressives continue to think and act white, they can't get to that real truth, that underlying truth that will enable them to say something to other European Americans that's going to make sense. That's going to be a real alternative. You're not going to change people's mind. They're going to have to make up their own minds. But as long as there are people, as long as most European Americans, including the progressives, think that they're benefiting somehow from this system, nobody's going to ask that question. Are you going to hold on to your white privilege, or are you going to help your sick mother? Are you going to hold on to your white privilege, or are you going to get out from under college debt? Are you going to hold on to your white privilege, or are you going to have real health insurance so that you're actually, This whole
And
thing,
you know what? That shouldn't be a choice. We're at the top of the hour, David. It shouldn't be a choice to do what's white or what's right. But that is white America's choice. And that's what I think I'll title this broadcast today: white or right. Because that's America. That's the choice you have to make. Black people did not elect Donald Trump. When we voted, we voted against Donald Trump. We voted. White people elected Donald Trump, and they have to continue to decide if you're going to do what's white or you're going to do what's right. And I think today we made that case. So, David, I want to thank you as always, Dr. David Slavin. That's what we're going to start calling you now, Dr. David Slavin. You can learn more about me, my agenda, and you can learn more about ADOS101.com, reparations, and why this is important. It's a part of my agenda. I speak very boldly about a Black agenda, closing the racial wealth gap, and reparations. So go to ADOS101.com. You can find Mr. Egberto Willies at Politics Done Right, politicsdoneright.com with Egberto Willies on he is everywhere. You can find Mr. Dr. David Slavin at Acknowledge the Divide right here on Facebook. I am Tamara Johnson Shealy, your candidate for the United States Senate right here in Georgia. Please volunteer, please donate, please support, be a part of it. I am unbought and unbossed, and I'm taking a bold agenda to Washington. David, it is always a pleasure. You can find us right here every Saturday at 11 a.m. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're everywhere, David, too. Thank you, David.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. Y'all have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Take care, folks.
See you next Saturday.